All right, welcome everybody to another Product Spotlight. I am Dave Cooper, your host, and man, do we have a show for you today. We are traveling overseas, and not just overseas, we're traveling over several oceans, and we are going to be having Forta-PRO on the show today, and we're going to talk about offsite modular construction and manufacturing from overseas. Forta-PRO manufactures high standard modular units, suitable for the construction of hotels, buildings, student accommodations, built for rent, apartments, hospitals, clinics, bathroom pods, and many other applications. But before we get into today's show, I want to welcome everybody. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And we are live on Twitch because that's where the young folks are. So if you know anybody on Twitch, have them follow and like us and join us. We would really appreciate it. So at Dave Cooper Live, we are bringing you the people and the processes that are building it better. Our guests include topics in building systems, the building science, building codes, and the tech used to build it better. And today is no different as we have a leader in the industry on. But first, we have to thank our sponsor, Forward Solutions Group. Thank you so much for everything, Ben Hershey, Joe Butler. They are a team with more than 175 years of experience developing and specifying manufacturing for panelized volumetric modular industries with best practices in development and implementation. They offer consulting with investors, developers, manufacturers, and builders in using offsite manufacturing methods. Forward Solutions is driving companies to succeed where others have failed. And I know that for a fact, and I believe that they are some of the best out there. So contact Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. All right, so let's hop into this a little bit. Like I said, we're live on all those locations. Please hit that like and share button. And without further ado, let's bring in our guest, Aviv. Aviv, how are you, my friend?
Hi, very well. Thanks, Dave.
Good to be on the show. It is so great having you. I'm going to do your last name, give it my best, Aviv Brosilovski.
That's good. Good enough.
I love it. I love it. So, Aviv, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I know it's later in the evening where you're at, right? Getting close to 8 o'clock, I'm assuming, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right. So we have so much to learn from companies like yours overseas here in the United States. And it's always great when we can have companies such as Forta-PRO come on who are actually doing it. You guys are building some amazing projects. You're building all throughout Europe and England and doing some great things. So I ask all of our guests in the very beginning, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Don't leave out any of this stuff from the hospital. We want it all. And you have about 3 to 5 minutes to do it. So the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Dave. Happy to be on the show and welcome everyone that are watching. Myself, Aviv Brosilovski, and I'm doing business development for Forta-PRO. I have electronic engineering background. I'm a lawyer, but I'm involved in modular construction for the last 6 and so years, and happily doing so. Forta itself is a Latvian-based company, so one of the 3 Baltic states in Europe, Northern Europe. Great team. So we are about 300 people strong, delivering projects across Europe, and happy to share the information with the audience and with the viewers. Yeah, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, hey, listen, this is going to be a fun conversation. I think before we get into everything that you guys are doing, let's talk about the market where you're at a little bit. Let's get into, what are you seeing as the trends happening right now? Where do you see the future of offsite going? Can you give us a little bit of insight from your viewpoint in Latvia?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think we're overwhelmed with the COVID. I think this changed a lot for everyone, for almost everyone. Luckily for us, we signed contract pre-COVID, so we were busy throughout the process, of course, observing the necessary social distancing, etc. But COVID changed because we were mainly busy with the hotel construction. We still are. But of course, some of the plans have been delayed. We are seeing a growing interest in student accommodation and rental apartments, or build to rent, as you call it. We're also seeing a great trend going to co-living, which is a fairly new concept, but this is growing, especially with young people, young professionals, people of say 25 years old, 30 years old that just graduated from university and looking for a decent place to live in for short-term leases. So we see a lot of developers going into this market and developing, and this is very interesting because at Forta we always want to lead the industry, so we are working very close with them. We want to lead, we want to innovate, and that's why I think it's very important that we stay, at the cutting edge of that sense.
Yeah, so you're seeing the co-living market, just like we have here. We're doing the build for rent's a big, part of the developer's game plan moving forward at the moment. So, it's funny that kind of, I guess all ships rise together, so to speak, with how the global economy is shaking out. What do you guys see as far as offsite construction and terminology? I really want to know from your point of view, is it volumetric? Is it offsite? Is it modular? What terminology are you guys seeing overseas? Or are you hearing the same thing we hear and where we're all just confused on what to call
it? Actually, we're seeing similar terminologies. We would like to position ourselves as a volumetric modular construction company or manufacturer versus offsite, because we are doing, for example, healthcare projects, part of the hospitals or complete hospital clinics, and we recently delivered a very interesting project in Copenhagen for the new hospital in Copenhagen in Denmark. And this we would refer to more as an offsite construction because the entire clinic was built in the factory. And then when we completed the structure and the finishes, we broke it apart into different pieces. We shipped the modules and then we reassembled on site. For that terminology, we would call offsite construction. Okay. We are more aimed or focusing on the modular, where you have the repetitive element of the building. So we would be more interested in projects that have a lot of repetition in them, say hotels, student accommodation, rental apartments, or build to rent, bathroom pods. We have several types of the modules, and then you simply replicate, and then you get the scale, and in our sense, get the full benefits of modular.
Yeah, but you have the ability to do both, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super versatile. We have another company here that does very similar, where they'll build out the whole structure, steel walls, steel panels, concrete, MEPs, and then take it apart, and it just goes together on site, just as much as the step and repeat products when you're doing hotels and high-rise buildings. Yeah.
Correct. Of course, these I would call them one-off buildings. They require a lot of design, a lot of planning, and it has to be a unique building, not just standard building. If it's a healthcare solution, it's a very technical building. We have the expertise in working with MRI scanners, CT scanners, all the weight, all the structural analysis of the building, and acoustic and other isolations that are required in the healthcare market.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys, just so everybody knows, you have 2 factories. And how many employees do you have in these 2 separate factories?
In Forta, we own and operate 2 very large factories. I have a video which I'll show in a minute, but these 2 factories were specifically designed and built for modular construction. So it's not a factory, it's not a warehouse that was there and we simply converted it. We hired actually a British team that had the know-how in designing the workflow in the factory, bringing their automotive industry know-how from the UK when they, at the time, were producing cars. And we implemented that into our factories. In the factories, we use a linear production line, so very similar to what you may see. I'm a motorcycle enthusiastic, so the way you build the Harley, that's how we build the modules. So we build them into stations on tracks. You'll see in a minute. And 300 people strong, very strong technical department. So we have 60 people in the technical department. These would include architects, structural engineers, M&E designers, different trade consultants, etc., all in-house. So we use our in-house design team and implement in the factory.
Love it. So listen, everybody, if you're just joining us, we have Aviv Brosilovski on. I'm going to get that name right before the end of this, from Forta-PRO. This is going to be a great presentation because we're going to not only show products that are being built, we're going to show products that are being installed. We're going to do some factory walkthroughs and show the inside of the manufacturing facility and what is going on there. And we're going to show you a product that's actually being installed in the middle of a snowstorm, of all things. Right. So the work does not stop. They even have a process for that. So, all right, Aviv, why don't we hop right into it?
Yeah. So I started the video. Hopefully you can see it.
Yeah.
I'll start with a short video that shows this is one of the factories. So you see about 12,000 square meter roofed. We have a big yard that serves us for storing a finished product and some raw material. This is in one city. This is the second factory, very convenient location because we're right on the Baltic Sea, which allows us shipping worldwide, basically. So we have a loading dock in the factory. You can see that's another 12,000 square meter roofed with a big yard, and you can see some of the product being stored outside, raw material, and then working in a very controlled environment inside. So it could be minus 20 Celsius degrees outside, and we are working with t-shirts inside. Yeah. So again, nice drone view of the factory and the way it's set up. We will, in a few minutes, we will dive in the next video, which will show you inside. If we start with the design, every project needs to start with good design. So I gathered here a short presentation of the steel carcass. So we use a steel frame structure. This structure allows us to go into high-rise buildings. So we're currently delivering a 16-story building in Sweden, and we're looking to go even higher. We have already designed 28-story building, but basically we know how to do it. The steel frame is very robust, and that's what kind of separates us from, let's say, wood manufacturer or timber manufacturer that have their own limitation. Steel structure allows us to go into high-rise building and to build great buildings. This is an example. The cage that you see here is an example of hotel that we completed in Stockholm. So if we dive into the factory, I'll just pause after this. If you dive into the factory, you already see the tracks. So here you see one of the earliest stages. Let me just pause here. And you see on the left side, the workers work on benches. So on a platform. It's very, very convenient, very good quality that could be managed here. You see the walls. And then we create the 3D volumetric element. On the track, you see now, for example, the ceiling being lifted from the working platforms onto the steel cage to create. So we start with 2D, and then we move on to 3D element. The advantages here is that, for example, you see the pipe, you saw the piping there, the piping are already there. Very strict quality control throughout the process. So at each station, you have a dedicated team that is doing a very particular job. So say we start with the steel structure, you have guys that are only doing steel. Then you have electricity, you have plumbing, you have sanitary, you have electricians. So each trade is doing the particular job. In this segment, you see already some more completed product. This moves into a different section on the tracks in the factory. We call this area the cold storage area. And here you can see how we can store multiple products, one on top of the other. Yeah, so these are more completed modules that came throughout. You see the high ceiling that we have in that section of the factory. And if we go in, and you can see these are the finished product examples. So still in the factory with the kitchenette, with the bathroom, we can achieve almost any level, going from 2-star hotel to 6+ star cabins, which we did. very precise, very well-designed M&E installations. The workers work with a set of drawings, so they know exactly where the pipe should be placed. Everything is drawn in 3D. We use Revit and other softwares to design and put the layout for every cable in the building. So we know exactly what's going into the modules at every stage. Let's just see a few more minutes here. You see again the craning and how we lift and assemble the walls to create again the 3D structure. The walls themselves, we use two types of steel. So the profile, the columns themselves and the perimeter beams is hot rolled metal. And for the infills, we use light gauge steel, LGS infills, to create the entire 3D cage.
So Aviv, can I ask you a question? Can you pause that for a second?
Yeah.
So with your manufacturing or in the steel wall panels, are you building all of those panel wall systems on site? And are you actually using machinery to print your own light gauge steel studs?
We do have our own light gauge steel studs manufacturing. Yep. In some cases, it makes sense to produce on your own. In other cases, we outsource the steel from external subcontractors. The hot rolled metal, this is done by subcontractors, and then we simply get the material into the factory in 2D as 2D elements, and we create the entire 3D elements in the factory.
Right. So your steel plates at the bottom for your floors would be outsourced and cut and drilled and ready to go. They're coming in sections, and then you're just putting them together and then starting your floors from there. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Back to the presentation.
Back to the presentation. Yeah. So if we go again to the factory, next stage will be after production. Let me jump here. Just to have a nice time lapse. It's quiet. Here, I wanted to show you how the modules actually move on the tracks. So you see again the columns being built. Let's jump a bit forward. Okay, here you see the tracks. You see on the right, you see bathroom pods production, and on the left you see the full volumetric solutions. Yeah. So again, a quick time lapse, and then soon you'll see the modules move from the current position, from the current station. These are completed modules. They move into the cold warehouse, what we name cold warehouse, and then you see bathroom pods moving into that position. So in that sense, we can highly control the traffic in the factory, the workflow. Employees don't just wait for the other product to come in or to the other piece of a module that needs to be done. It's very controlled and working very well. So, sorry.
That's okay. I got a question. How automated is that process from a technology standpoint in the lines? Are you using any technology, whether it is computers, iPads? How are you tracking the progress of each line, and how is it moving from point A to point B, so you do not have any of that backlog or lag time for the workers on the floor?
Yeah, that's a great question, because one of the key elements that we have is that the entire factory is networked with cameras. So even clients have access to the security cameras. They can see what's going on in the factory, where and how is your project progressing. So you can see live image from the factory, and we give access to the clients. In terms of production flow, the floor managers have their own computers, laptops, and tablets, and they know exactly each module has its own, we call it a passport, okay? Mm-hmm. Each module has its own documentation, own file that travels with it from the, let's call it from the minute of conception until it's being signed off on site. We know exactly who is the one that placed the bolt, who is the plumber that did the sewage pipe installation. Right. Everything is well documented. It's being uploaded to the server. It's being stored on the server. This, of course, is being presented and delivered to the client when the building is complete. So you have a complete, in most cases, we do also photo fixation. So say in 5 years' time, you want to know what's behind that gypsum board. You know exactly what's happening at each one of the walls, and it's very convenient and very, very good for buildings that need maintenance, such as hotels, rental apartments. Say in 5 years you want to renovate. You want to know what's behind that wall without, without doing a lot of damage. So you have photos, you have the entire documentation. It's very convenient and very, very effective.
Yeah. Here's a question you might not have been asked before, so I'm going to ask it.
Yeah.
When you have a 16-story building, do you start with the top floor modules first in the production line, or you start with the bottom modules first when running a production line?
Well, I go back to what I said when we started. Yeah. Modular for us is about the repetition. In many cases, in the building, of course, we have different types of modules. So say we want to start with module which we call M5. That's the category. Sometimes these M5 will be the top modules, or will be somewhere in the building. Say these are the studio apartments. M5 is the studio apartments. We want to finish off first the studio apartments and then move on to the 2-bed, right? So it really depends on the project. It really depends on the construction company which we are working with on site and their progress. Sometimes we wait for them. We don't want them to wait for us. Mm-hmm. So we want to be very, very, I would say, highly synced with what's happening on site. It's very important because we see a lot of failures in the modular world. We don't want to do that. We want to be very precise and very, very accurate. So yeah. I hope this answered.
No, it was very well answered. So yeah, no issues there. Love it. All right, I'm gonna put you back onto the presentation here.
Yeah. So if we move on with the production, before the modules are being shipped, we shrink wrap them for the protection during the transportation. Of course, the product code is being painted for easy tracking on site, so we know exactly which one is the module. You see tying up the beam, the lifting beam, mm-hmm. that lifts the beam, and then we go into transport. Modular has a lot of logistics business involved in. So, because if you are a producer, you still need to ship the product, which means that you have to be well aware of logistics issues, and this is a big headache, I would say. Yeah. So we have an entire department that checks the routes, checks what's happening on the route. And you see here how we load the modules on a truck. It goes to the loading dock, and then we offload there, and then we load onto the ship. In most cases, this is a sea transport, and because again we are on the Baltic Sea, we can reach almost any place on the planet. Of course, Scandinavia, UK, Germany is easy access for us, Iceland, but we also shipped some product already to the US, and we're looking to grow the overseas market. Maybe we can discuss this later on. But again, you see also the loading scheme is very important. We need to know where each module sits. And here you see on site. So this is already in Norway. You see the narrow roads that the modules have to travel in. So this is a small village in Norway. And you see that without any, police escort or road closure, we can get into, very confined areas and get the product there. Of course, everything needs to be checked before we even start or before we even take on the product. Yeah. If I can continue, yeah. So
yeah, no, for sure. Your video is freezing up on us a little bit here and there. So, but I think it started catching up. So go ahead and start.
Okay. So next phase. Okay, we ship the product. Now we're on site. So here you'll see a very nice project which is now being constructed in Sweden. Well, you see how confined the construction site is. These are 350 rental apartments, You see the concrete core being built on site by the main contractor, and how we lift and position the module. See how clean the site is. This is not really a construction site. We call it assembly site. So very clean environment. The neighbors, they don't feel that a building is being built. It's a 16-story building. You can see some later development here. This is the 16-story is already being built. So you see scaffolding go with the building, go up with the building. And you can see again, the way the site looks. The truck comes in with the module on the platform. We strip out the shrink wrap that used to serve for the protection during the transportation, and use the special lifting beams to balance the lifting of the modules. You don't want it to lift in a strange or funny way to avoid cracking. Yeah. So we lift the modules. Typical modules can weigh up to 12 tons, 15 tons. It's quite heavy modules. Yeah. And then again, you see the neighborhood around this building. So we have a school there without any interruption. So very, very clean, very quiet. And the next phase shows you a time lapse for this exact project. And you see how heavy it snows in Sweden right now. This was taken, I think like a month ago or less, 2 weeks ago. See the snow and see how we keep on working throughout that period. Yeah. So we clean up the snow and we place the next module. Yeah.
So let me ask you, what is the blue wrap that's on the top of those modules that is staying in place there?
Okay, great question. So the blue wrap is a PVC membrane that we place on top of each module to avoid water coming into the module, not just during transportation, but also during the assembly. Because as you witnessed, we have snow in many cases in Scandinavia, we have a lot of rain. So you don't want that during the assembly process, water will leak into the module. So that's why we place that PVC membrane. It also serves for protection for the workers, because the workers work on top of that building. They walk on that during the assembly and it stays there. So actually there's a PVC membrane between each module that sit one on top of the other. Another time-lapse example, this is in Copenhagen. This is a hotel we completed at the Copenhagen airport in Denmark. Mm-hmm. In 7 days, we have a 90 rooms hotel completed. So see how quick it is. This is a real time-lapse. So 7 days, freestanding 6-story building. Of course, the building is not complete, but in terms of weather tightness, it's complete. So it's weather tight. It could stay like that for 6 months or even more. Mm-hmm. The contractor is doing the facade. I just want to emphasize, maybe I'll pause here. See the building on the left? This is an existing hotel. So we added another building. So actually throughout the assembly, it's not really construction, throughout the assembly process, the hotel kept on operating without any interference. Mm-hmm. So this hotel is very occupied. It has, high rate of occupancy. They didn't want to lose guests. They didn't want guests to be disturbed by construction. So actually, if you see the site, you see that it's very quiet. It's very clean. You see here the rooftop modules, which are also part of the building. This is also unique to Forta. We can do also the rooftop modules. This is another great example.
Let's hey, Aviv, there's some comments and questions. Let's take a break. Let's go say hello to some people before we get too far in, because I know we have some more to get through. And let's say hello and answer some questions that we have. All right.
Sure.
Damien asks, co-living is being resisted by Irish government, he says. Yeah, I wonder why. I'd like to learn more as to why. Look at that. Joe Butler's here. Hey, what's happening, Joe? Forward Solutions Group. Thank you so much. He's one of our sponsors and a great person to boot. I think everybody should know Joe Butler. Julian Bellerin. Hey, what's happening, Julian? How are you? Late but here. I love it.
That's great.
So a LinkedIn user asked, can these, it's Ben Brown, can these modular systems be built to passive house standards?
That's an excellent question. Working in Scandinavia, one of the projects that we delivered in Norway is a passive house. Sustainability and eco-friendly buildings are very important, especially to Scandinavians and of course to Forta. So in that particular example, we have a 100 square meter apartment heated by a single radiator about that size. So about 20 inches wide, single radiator heats 100 square meter apartment. Outside temperature could be minus 40 Celsius. Sorry, I'm not very good with Fahrenheit, but it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
So we know how to deal with passive house, and we know how to deliver that as well.
Perfect. So thank you, Ben Brown, for that question. Moving down here. Man, they're starting to fly in now. My thing's moving too fast. George Ryman, what's happening? Good morning from Phoenix, Arizona. I can tell you, Aviv, it does not snow very often in Phoenix, Arizona.
I know.
For sure. All right, here we have. Before even designing the modules, do you need to check road widths to the site? So that's a common thing here in the States, and of course it makes sense that it would be there. But tell us your process on the pre-planning before designing, or even seeing if it's possible to get offsite or module there.
Yeah, I think we touched this point. Logistics is critical. Yeah. So before we take on a project, we do a road survey. We know exactly the route that is coming from the most convenient port to the site. Sometimes it's not the closest or it's not the shortest route, but we make sure that we have no tunnels or no bridges, or we check the width of the roads. And from that road survey, we actually go back to the design board, and only then we start the design. Because there's no point, in designing 4 meter wide module where you can drive only 3.8. Yeah. Basically, I mentioned this in my presentation, is that you can build almost everything, but it has to make the economy. It has to make sense. You don't want a road closure. You don't want police escorts. You don't want, helicopter lifting the modules, etc. We've heard a lot. We want to do simple things. We want to do it right. So for that, you need a good logistic plan before you even start the design.
Awesome answer. Thank you very much. Very similar to us here in the United States. All right, so we have more. Some of the names aren't popping up, so I want to make sure we give them credit for sure. So another question from a LinkedIn user. This is actually, if I say his name right, Bjorn Nesh, co-founder Beige Blend Architecture, I believe is how it's said. Is the core of the building also modular?
It could be. It could be. What we are seeing is that the core itself, up to 6 or 7 story building, again, I'm generalizing, but just to give you the example, 6 to 7 story building, we can do a freestanding building without a stabilizing core. The core itself serves for horizontal movement, not for the vertical loads. So above 7 floors, we would need a stiffening core. This could be done modular, but in most cases, we see this being built in concrete. We had a project in Sweden, hotel project, where the core was also prefab, but not by Forta, by a local contractor, steel frame core, and we tied up the modules to that core. The core typically serves for the elevator shaft, the staircase, the vertical risers, etc. So it could be done modular, but we typically see this being built on site.
Sure. So we just did a live stream on that, a big concrete company out of Florida, Randell. I mean, they're doing all of these huge elevator shafts, offsite where the infrastructure's there. Yeah. And it's in elevator shafts, stairwells, all those things. So, all right, great question. If you're wondering why your name does not pop up in LinkedIn, you have to let outside softwares grab that name, or you just come up as a LinkedIn user. So I'm trying my best to look on LinkedIn and look on our platform here to make sure everybody gets the credit. All right, moving on. We got some more here. All right, Julian Bellerin, who is structural designer at Forta-PRO?
So in-house, we have structural engineers, but in terms of the way we work in the design is that, being based in Latvia, in every country that we work in, we hire a local team of consultants that serve us for the local code. As you know, construction is the second most regulated industry in the world after pharmaceutical, as far as I know. So we don't want to do mistakes. So for every project, we hire a local team. So say we work in Sweden, we would have a Swedish structural engineer, a Swedish architect, a Swedish M&E consultant, fire, acoustics, and whatever. So this local team guides our in-house design team, and they work together on the project to comply with the local regulation, to make sure there are no mistakes, to make sure that we have hands-on locally, and that's how we do it in every part of in every country that we step in.
Outstanding. Julian, thanks, man, for the question. Appreciate it. Moving forward here, Richard Pender. With steel frame, do you get much pushback on embodied carbon?
Yeah. To be honest, yeah, this is a growing issue. Yeah, we are looking in ways to improve that and to do whatever we can. As you may know, modular is eco-friendly in that sense that we have much less waste than traditional construction. So we buy the materials on a cut to size, exactly the material that we want. We are not throwing away gypsum. Every waste that we still have is recycled. So if we have some steel element or some gypsum that is left over, we recycle this. But this is very minimal, because when you design the product so well, you know exactly how much material you're going to use. We don't want to buy spares. We don't want to waste. We want to save on that. It also serves us and serves the environment.
Awesome. Perfect question. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a couple more questions, then we're going to get back into the presentation. Now, this LinkedIn user's name is Adil Ozdogan. He's a professional engineer. How are the module connections work? How are they connected to each other?
Great question, because there are a lot of ways how to stack the modules. So in our modules, we have what we call a male and a female connector. They plug in one to another, and then we use bolts versus welding. We try to avoid welding in the connection. We are using a bolting system. In some cases, we have to use welding, especially when we connect 4 modules horizontally. We need some welding plate, but in most cases, I would say 90% of the cases, we use bolting system, and that's how we stack the modules one on top of the other. Because we use a column-based system to carry the vertical loads, so each column is connected to the column beneath it with the bolt, and that's how we secure the structural strength of the building.
Love it. Adil, thank you so much for that question. All right, we're back at it. We got through most of those, so let's keep firing away. I'll put your presentation back up.
Great, thanks. So yeah, another great example. This is coming from Sweden, Gothenburg. For those of you who've never heard about Gothenburg, Gothenburg is Volvo city, and you must know Volvo, yeah? So Volvo is headquartered in Gothenburg, and this is the 4th Clarion where we delivered an extension to an existing hotel. So let me tell you this, you cannot get more central in Gothenburg than this Post Hotel. That's the name of the Clarion Hotel, Post Hotel Clarion in Gothenburg. So I would call it Times Square of Gothenburg. Okay, so let's see how we manage the site here. Yeah, so again, time-lapse video. Sorry, I paused it. Yeah, again, you see the existing hotel, and you see the modules drive on the driveway, and how we lift them. You'll see an aerial view in a minute. Again, very quiet, without interference to the existing hotel, which kept on operating. They have conferences, they have people. So this is the center of Gothenburg. See how much traffic you have there, and see the modules in the center coming in without any road closure, without blocking, without interfering. The trucks are coming in, modules are being lifted over the existing building and being landed onto the construction site, which is internal, sort of an internal patio inside the hotel. Again, you see the traffic day and night, non-stop. So this started early morning, but you see here, this is noontime or afternoon. People come back. See how central this is? Yeah. And this is one of the key advantages of modular. So we can work in very tight locations, in city centers, in Manhattan, in London, in Paris, wherever, without interfering, without road closure, very quick and very efficient. Again, so this is, now we step into the inside. So how does the modules look when the project is completed? This is the hotel which I showed earlier. This is the inside of the room, 2-star airport hotel. Everything you see in the photos here was produced by Forta and was shipped with the modules. So brick cladding on the facade, this was done on site. Again, another example, and I have to pause here because this is our first project in the UK, in London. Luckily for us, we won the prestigious award of Residential Project of the Year awards for 2020. This was done recently. This project was delivered for Berkeley Homes, one of the largest developer and well-known developer in the UK. This is a residential building, and you see how nice this building looks like. So brick facade, cantilever balconies. I would say you don't know that this is being built off-site, or this is being built by modules. When you step in, you'll see the finishes. So let me just pause here, go back one sec. Okay, so these are the duplex apartments. The duplex apartments are made out of 4 different modules, and this is very interesting because when you want to connect, goes back to the question which we had from one of the participants, is how we connect the modules. So I explained about vertical connection, horizontal connection. Here we see 2 modules being connected, and then we cannot complete 100% of the modules in the factory, but 85% completion, I would say 90% completion in the factory. And then we have an action that is called seal and conceal. So we zip up the gap between the 2 modules. This is being done on site, either by our own team or by a local contractor. And then we finish off the building. See how nice this building looks like, these apartments. So these are apartments for sale. Kitchen was delivered by Forta, all the furniture, windows, bathroom. Here you see another example of the kitchen. Carpets in the rooms, very, very good finishes, very high-end finishes for Berkeley homes. Berkeley is known for their finishes. See how nice this is. And that's the internal, again, the internal.
What are you using for your MEPs? I see the radiators on the wall. What about, cooling and things of that nature? How are you cooling the space?
Yeah, so it's up to the customer to decide what sort of heating, what sort of cooling, but we typically use radiators. It could be air condition. It could be any system, any M&E system. We can go and design it. As I explained, as we are building hospitals, from hospitals to student accommodation to residential building. So M&E is very strong. It's very strong emphasis in Forta. If I go to the next example, this is a prototype that we designed together with Marriott. This is the new Moxie 2.0. So this is now a prototype which we built together and is now positioned in Frankfurt, in Germany. So right outside of the Marriott headquarters in Europe. So basically a developer can come in, see Marriott, go outside and see exactly how the hotel room would look like. So everything you see here is according to the Marriott specs. And this is built. This is the Clarion, which I showed earlier. See how nice this room looks like.
It's beautiful.
Internal fit out. See the bathroom unit, sort of a 4+ star hotel, Clarion. And
now, will all the internal furniture and fixtures come already installed?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. And I think that was my last video.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I got some questions for sure. That was a great presentation. Really love the product. So, your partners, developers that are choosing to work with Forta-PRO, at what point in the process does somebody make the decision to want to work with you? When should they get involved with the process of working with you? And then also, do you have some repeat customers as well?
Let me start with the later part of your questions. Yes, we do. We're looking. This is not a cliche. Words are cheap. I can say almost everything, but we are very much focused on long-term cooperation. We are not jumping into projects where we are not certain that we will be able to deliver. We want to do good projects. We want to develop as we go together with our partners. And if I go to the first part of your question, Dave, we would want to be engaged as early as possible, because many clients that the team comes across, not just me, the sales team, everyone in our company. In many cases, we see architects, we see developers. They think they know modular. They think that they saw it. They are enthusiastic about this, but they are not fully aware of the implications of what's the good, what's the bad. Yeah. So we want a client that is well educated, that he knows what are going to be the advantages of using modular, and there are some great advantages. Modular can benefit a lot, but it needs to suit the right project. We often get across projects that are already approved, signed, and people want to redesign them, or I would say re-engineer them back to modular. This is the step that we try to alert and tell the client, look, we can do it, but let's speak about your next project. Yeah, because we want to be engaged from very early start, very early beginning, with a client that knows that he's going to build this modular and wants to build it with Forta-PRO.
Yeah. Well, it's very much the same thing. I get, the process is the same everywhere. If you start with it in mind, it saves a lot of time and a lot of headaches having to try and fit a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't work. But you got to start with the end in mind, especially with offsite manufacturing. All right, let's go to some more comments here. Let me take a look real quick. Juan, let me ask you one other question. What is your capacity and how far are you out booking right now? And then we're going to get to everybody else's comments.
Okay, so as you saw earlier in the presentation, Forta owns and operates two very large factories. Currently, we have one of the largest production capacities in Europe in terms of volumetric. We refer to 120,000 square meters per year in terms of volume. We can increase that capacity because we can double shift. Of course, it doesn't double up the capacity, but it ramps up and speeds up the production capacity. Luckily for us, 2021 is looking very positive. So we already have secure jobs. We have capacity. We are looking for more projects. We are looking to expand. I can already tell you that we have plans to increase the production capacity. We signed significant contracts with partners in other territories like Canada, like the Middle East. So we are looking into these markets. We are looking to the US. We are looking to grow the business, not to rush things, but to grow steadily and healthy and do well.
Oh, hey, listen, that's great. And anybody out there on the that's listening that wants to translate the square meters into square foot, I'd love to know. And I'm sure some of the folks on the United States side and Canada side, well, maybe Canada's doing the same thing, would like to know as well. I'm not even going to attempt to do it on the fly here. All right, moving into the questions. Well, here's a comment. Julian, I have noted a lot of exaggeration regarding the carbon impact of steel versus wood. It's a much more complex conversation than commonly believed. Unfortunately, it's become one lobby group versus another. Yeah, I mean, politics is everything, right? Everything. All right, here we go. I'm not sure who this is. We'll have to look. Do you do post-assembly blower door tests? And if so, how are the results compared to on-site construction?
Not sure I got fully the question. Post-assembly blower door.
So a blower door test is basically the energy efficiency of the air exchanges within the building, right? So they seal it up and then test the air.
Yeah. So sorry, we use a bit of a different terminology. Yes, again, according to the specifications for each one of the projects, I can tell you that in terms, let's say, for example, acoustics. Yeah, we delivered a hotel at the Arlanda airport in Stockholm, in Sweden, and 200 meters above the roof of this hotel, that's the airstrip. So airliners land 200 meters above this hotel, and we had to score very high on the acoustic isolation. So of course, every building is being tested. We actually, on that case, scored higher than what was required. This means that the isolation, the acoustic isolation, is very, actually, when you go into this room and you close yourself with the door, with the window, you feel yourself like you're in a bubble. Yeah, you open the door, you open the window, you cannot accommodate the sound, the level of noise. But inside, completely quiet, no issues. So yeah, we know how to deal with the specific requirements for each one of the testing that is required.
Well, that was Ben Brown. Thank you, Ben Brown, for that question. Julian Bellerin, it's easy, 10-1. That's all right. Well, that's why I have such wonderful, smart people that tune in.
1.2 million square feet.
Yeah, love it. All right,
it's a lot.
Henry Mickelberg, really pleased that you produced a prototype for Marriott. They were understandably impressed when we visited. Shame about the timing.
Well, Henry, we are very familiar. Henry visited our factory. By the way, the audience, whoever wants to visit, open door. We welcome guests. Henry visited the factory together with the team. As I mentioned, long-term thinking. We are not just for a single project. We want to stay here. We want to lead. We want to innovate. Not the first one. We'll take the second one.
I love it. Aviv, I told you it's the fastest hour you're going to have this week.
Wow, 1 hour passed.
It goes by very quick. So listen, Aviv, what is the most important thing people should take away from our conversation that you want them to know about Forta-PRO? And I know we've already covered them all, but here's an opportunity just to let's reiterate it, and then we're going to close out the show.
Sure. First, I have to thank you, Dave and Jennifer, for inviting me to speak on the show. I think that Forta-PRO can contribute to your projects. We have great experience, and we're looking to grow the business. I think people, as we discussed earlier, people needs to know more about Modular because we want to do good projects. We want to keep on developing. We want to grow with the market need. We see great potential. We see a lot of partners that are looking for a good production facility, a good partner to work with. and we are open to business. We welcome any inquiry. Feel free to contact me. We have webinars coming up. The next one, I think, is on the 18th of February. We do seminars, we do presentations. So feel free to contact me or one of the Forta-PRO team. We are happy to share the knowledge. I think sharing the knowledge increases the market awareness and leads to better projects. I don't believe in hiding stuff. Share the knowledge. It will benefit all.
Yeah, I agree. Damien says, thanks, Dave, and thanks, Aviv, for a very insightful. Thank you, Damien, for tuning in and listening today. All right. Well, I hope everybody learned a little something about you personally and the company. So this has been a great having you on, Aviv. I'm really grateful that you took the time. I know it's getting late there for you. So we're going to do our outro here, but you just stick tight so we can talk just for a few minutes afterwards. And everybody, one last time, please hit that like and share button. And if you're not following Aviv on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, please go and follow them. Really, really smart. They've been doing this for quite some time, and they have a great system in place. One of the best manufacturers out there. And also, once again, thank you to our sponsor, Forward Solutions Group, Ben Hershey and Joe Butler. They are some of the best in the industry when it comes to consulting in the manufacturing and offsite modular, volumetric, and panelized world. So with that said, I am Dave Cooper. We will see you tomorrow on Increasing Influence with Miles Biggs Ideas. And do not forget to tune in on Friday at 1 o'clock with Mark Bare Naked Willie, where we are going to be talking BS. That's right, building science. I'm Dave Cooper. Aviv, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day, no matter where you are in the world. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Thank you.